Their blood-curdling screams tell the story of the unfolding horror more than words ever could. But it is only as bodies are pulled out of the inferno that the scale of this attack becomes clear. At least 45 people were killed after an Israeli airstrike targeted this camp for displaced Palestinians in western Rafah.
Mere days after the International Court of Justice ordered Israel to immediately stop its assault on Rafah, the southern border town in the Gaza Strip, the Israeli Defense Forces carried out a massacre in the area, slaughtering at least 45 people and wounding over 240 individuals. The area was declared a safe zone for Palestinians who have been displaced by this war, but the IDF's airstrike on this civilian camp proves that it was anything but safe.
Yeah, and by the way, unfortunately today, another 21 slaughtered in another tent camp near Rafah. But since there was no video of children being burned alive, Israel has yet to apologize for it. We've got more of that story and more videos coming up in a second for you. But Anna, more details.
Yes, so here is more from Jeremy Diamond's report on CNN about the Rafah attack that took place over the weekend.
Mohammed Abu Atawi is one of those civilians, so badly burned that he cannot even open his eyes. But there are so many more. So many children writhing in pain. And then there are the parents, desperate to save babies whose cries have been silenced, perhaps forever. The occupation army is a liar. There is no security in Gaza, says this man whose brother was killed in the strike. Here he is with his wife. They were martyred. They are gone. For one man, a brother. For another, his sister. She was the only one, he says. She was the only one, and she is gone.
Now, the Biden administration alleged that an attack on Rafah was Biden's red line. But the response from the Biden administration following this assault on Rafah over the weekend has been, just to put it bluntly, incredibly disgraceful. According to Barak Ravid, the White House National Security Council spokesperson told him, the devastating images following the IDF strike in Rafah last night that killed dozens of innocent Palestinians are heartbreaking. Israel has a right to go after Hamas, but as we've been clear, Israel must take every precaution possible to protect civilians. They don't, and they haven't, but that hasn't stopped the Biden administration from supporting Netanyahu and the far-right government in Israel. Anyway, the statement continues, we are actively engaging the IDF and partners on the ground to assess what happened. But as we know, it's American-made bombs that Biden sends to Israel, paid for, of course, by the US taxpayer, that end up killing these Palestinian civilians. As Stephen Semler writes, Israel reportedly used US-made GBU 39 bombs in the attack. Biden has sent Israel at least 1,000 of these bombs since October. Just these bombs alone. Of course, there are many other types of bombs that have been sent and munitions that have been sent to Israel to support their assault on the Palestinian people. And during a press conference today, White House spokesperson John Kirby made clear that despite what happened in Rafah over the weekend and continues to happen today, there was another attack which we'll tell you about in just a moment. The Biden administration is not changing any of its policies toward Israel because the Biden administration is full of whores that take AIPAC money and carry out the best wishes of the Israeli government as opposed to the best wishes of the American people, and more importantly, Democratic voters who Biden obviously needs in order to get reelected. But good luck with that, Biden. Cenk, go ahead.
Yeah, so the American officials have gone as far as saying there is no ground offensive in Rafah. They've turned Biden into a pathetic Baghdad Bob whose job is just to sit there and lie on behalf of Israel. And I'm sure he sent some sternly worded letters or calls to Netanyahu. Whoa, this Rafah was supposed to be his red line. That's why they're saying literal lunatic statements like there is no ground offensive, as we see the tanks rolling into civilian evacuation zones, tent camps in the middle of Rafah, etc. Why is Biden moving his red line? Well, first of all, that red line never existed. We covered it on the Young Turks for you guys. It was gobbledygook. It was totally vague statements about, oh, I care about Palestine. I guess they shouldn't do anything in Rafah, but I'm not sure. But overall, I'll send Israel any money they ever want. I am their servant. Please, Netanyahu. There's an article in Politico today about how Biden's team is worried Netanyahu is trying to make sure Biden loses the elections. Well, I have a remarkable, revolutionary idea. How about you stop listening to him? And you say, hey, you know what? You cross my red line, I'm going to stop sending you bombs to murder Palestinians.
I know, but what is AIPAC paying him for, Cenk?
But that's
what
the thing.
What is AIPAC paying him for? To be a good little whore for Israel.
So that's just, look, guys.
That's the reality of the situation, no?
So here's a stone cold fact. No politician in American history has ever received more money from AIPAC than Joe Biden. He has received $11.2 million and counting from AIPAC. That is why when he's like, oh, I think Netanyahu is going to cost me the election, it never even occurs to him to defy the leader of a foreign government that he's sending our money to. It doesn't even occur to him to defy Netanyahu. And he's like, well, I guess I'm going to lose the election then. Oh, God, golly gee willikers, I can't believe Netanyahu is forcing me to lose the election. What kind of pathetic person are you? Jesus Christ. Meanwhile, Congress, bipartisan, Democrats and Republicans, invited Netanyahu over to give him a standing ovation for all these murders. So now let's be clear. If Hamas had burned people alive like Israel just did in Rafah, and we're not showing it to you because it's beyond you, like you can't unsee it. There was a decapitated child.
Yeah, it's.
If Hamas had decapitated an Israeli child and burned 45 Israelis alive, we would bomb the Palestinians from here to forever. In fact, we're doing it right now. We would allow Israel to murder 36,000 Palestinians in revenge. But when Israel does it, the most moral. Come on, guys, you guys are disgusting. Obviously, when Hamas does it, it's terrorism. And yes, I hate to break your hearts if you're in American media and American politicians, but when Israel does the same exact thing, except 30 times over, it is also terrorism. We just spent $20 billion of our money to help a terrorist state, and now they're doing it again and again and again, including the 21 people murdered today in a different tent camp.
Well, let's talk about the military for that terrorist state, the IDF, and what they're claiming was carried out. So the IDF claims that they carried out this airstrike in order to target two Hamas commanders, one named Yassin Rabia, the other Khalid Nagar. Now, I wouldn't take anything the IDF says at face value. They claim that the airstrike took these two individuals out. That is what they're claiming. There's been no confirmation of that so far. Worth mentioning the extreme lengths, though, that CENTCOM has gone through in order to kill certain individuals that the United States was targeting in a way that prevented civilian casualties. One of the more recent examples, as General McKenzie wrote about in The Atlantic recently, had to do with Qasem Soleimani. Now, assassinating Qasem Soleimani, who was the head general for the Iranian military, was an incredibly risky maneuver. I wouldn't have done it, and I disagreed with it because that could have dragged the United States into a war with Iran, which would have been disastrous. Luckily, that didn't happen. But I think what we learned from McKenzie and his, in his piece for The Atlantic says a lot, because he writes this. Someone from the Pentagon asked me, can you shoot this effing down, right? This effort down. So basically, Qasem Soleimani was on a flight. And so the argument was, let's attack the plane that he's on, let's just kill him, right? But McKenzie realized, there might be some issues at play here. So he says, without deciding to execute the request, I called my air component commander in Qatar. If I give you an order to shoot this aircraft down, can you make it work? The Air Force responded quickly, and we moved two fighters into a trail position behind the jet. We now had an option in hand to finish the mission if we were told to do so. We worked feverishly to determine if the flight was chartered or commercial. Is this a private jet or is this a commercial flight? Because if it's a commercial flight, there are innocent civilians on that flight. And then he writes this, it soon became apparent that the plane was headed to Damascus. We also learned that the jet was a much delayed civilian flight, meaning at least 50 innocent people were probably on board. I immediately advised Milley that we should not shoot. Not even Soleimani was worth that loss of life. He and I quickly agreed that we would not engage. So it's interesting how the US military is able to make that kind of calculation. And as we know, the US military isn't full of doves, okay? Full of war hawks, people who have usually no problem with civilian casualties in a lot of cases. But in this case, it's like you have the head general for the Iranian military. Do we kill 50 innocent civilians just to take him out? And they decided against it. And by the way, I don't know if you guys know this, Qasem Soleimani eventually was assassinated without civilian casualties. But Israel can't be bothered to, send in special ops or, do targeted attacks of Hamas militants. Why would they when you can just wipe out dozens of innocent Palestinian civilians in the process, right? And we're not supposed to call this a genocide, right? That would be too inflammatory.
Yeah, 36,000 at a bare minimum dead, 10,000 on the rebels, 77,000 injured. Bare minimum, 25,000 women and children, a stadium full of women and children murdered. But we're all supposed to believe that it was an accident every single time. How do you accidentally murder a stadium full of women and children? Yet, the sad, pathetic creatures in American television and in an American Congress are like, yes, sir, of course, sir. AIPAC's giving the money? Good. I don't see it, sir. I see the most moral army in the world. I serve that army. I serve America. But did the check clear? The AIPAC check clear? AIPAC is spending $100 million bribing American officials in this term alone. So any reporter who talks about why Democrats and Republicans are blindly kissing the ass of these obvious terrorists and doesn't mention that they're being bribed to the tune of $100 million just in this cycle, let alone the hundreds of millions AIPAC has given before, is not really a reporter. They're hiding the truth from you. Do you think that, maybe you think that, hey, all those Democrats and all those Republicans in Congress are just the most immoral, vicious psychopaths in the world. So they're enjoying this. In fact, in the Israeli right wing, there's in the press over the weekend, they said the Sunday bombing that roasted 45 people alive, they said happy holidays. It was apparently a Jewish holiday and they celebrated it by saying, oh, look at these Palestinians we burned alive, because there's normally a bonfire apparently associated with this holiday. And American media and American politicians, maybe they agree. Maybe they're like, bonfire of humanity, we love it, burn all the civilians to death. Or it could be that bothers them a little bit, but not much. And as long as they're getting the money from AIPAC, they're like, burn anyone you want alive, who cares? The kid's decapitated, the check clear. They literally have invited Netanyahu. They're all going to give him standing ovation after standing ovation. Only a few people like Bernie Sanders say, I'm not going to that. I'm not going to celebrate this monster. But almost all of the corporate Republicans and Democrats bow down to the donor money, no matter where the donor money comes from. And yes, in this case, it's coming from AIPAC, which has Israel in its name. That means we serve Israel and not America. So that's just reality. If you want to put pretty words around it, you can try to hide their crimes all day long. Human rights groups are saying this is the worst they have ever seen in their lifetimes. Okay. Most moral army. It's a sick, sick joke.
Not only is it not a moral army, they are empowered by the impunity granted to them by our government here in the United States, which is why the IDF has continued shelling Rafah, shelling tent encampments in Rafah, consisting of displaced Palestinians. Now Israel's denying the latest news that IDF shelling led to 21 Palestinians dying in one of these Rafah encampments. And 2 days after an Israeli airstrike on another camp stirred global condemnation, Gaza Emergency Services said 4 tank shells hit a cluster of tents in Al-Mawasi, a coastal strip that Israel had advised civilians in Rafah to move to for safety. So they're telling Palestinian civilians to go to specific areas for their own safety, and then they do the shelling, they do the bombing, they do the aerial bombardments. Tuesday's incident in Al-Mawasi occurred in an area designated by Israel as an expanded humanitarian zone. Israel had urged Palestinian civilians in Rafah, including around 1 million displaced by the almost 8-month-old war, to evacuate there when it launched its incursion in early May. So 21 people have been killed as a result of that. At least 12 of those killed are women. And Reuters also reports that residents in Rafah's Tel al-Sultan neighborhood, the scene of Sunday's nighttime strike in which tents and shelters were set ablaze as families settled down to sleep, was still being bombarded. So please spare me the nonsense about how, oh, it was a terrible accident, as Netanyahu claimed over the weekend. It wasn't a terrible accident. It was very much intentional. I mean, if anyone watching chooses to be incredibly dumb in believing what the far-right government of Israel has to say about its military operations that just consistently kills all of these innocent civilians, go ahead and be dumb about it. That's fine. You can choose to be stupid and believe Netanyahu. In reality, I mean, how many accidents have happened, right? This is how well funded is this military? This is supposed to be a sophisticated, well-funded military, but they keep doing all these accidents, especially after the international community condemns them, right? International community condemns them for not allowing humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. What does Israel do immediately after that? They do 3 consecutive drone strikes to kill 7 humanitarian aid workers with the World Central Kitchen. That was an accident, right? The 3 consecutive drone strikes. I mean, it's just ridiculous at this point, Cenk.
Yeah, so look, guys, why did Israel bother to apologize for the 45 killed in Rafah? What extra difference does 45 people make when they've killed 36,000? Because there was video of it. There was video of decapitated babies and people set on fire. Before, you didn't see the videos, so they didn't bother apologizing. On the 21 they just killed, there isn't video, so they don't bother apologizing. But when you see people being burned alive, and but guys, what do you think happens when we drop bombs? How do you think the bombs kill people? In a gentle sleep? No, they either burn them alive or crush their skulls. But as long as there's no video, there's no apology, and the goddamn Palestinians had it coming. All their civilians had it coming, their women and children had it coming, etc. But when there's video, the propaganda kicks into overdrive. Oh, it was an accident, it was a tragic mistake. We're looking into it. And then the US comically comes out and goes, oh, well, they are looking into it. I'm sure that they will be fair and honest. Get the hell out of here, man. Everyone in the US State Department now is Baghdad Bob, a bunch of buffoons lying on behalf of a foreign government. By the way, every person you see there that was killed, we paid for that. And we didn't just send them the $20 billion like, oh, well, God, there was nothing we could do. We sent it 2 years ago, we didn't know this was gonna happen. No, we just sent it a couple of weeks ago. After we saw 6 to 7 months of the most brutal campaign, after we knew that they were trying to starve 1 million Palestinians to death, we sent them $20 billion as a good job.
Correct. That's
the 6 psychopaths that did it for a couple of bucks in Congress. They're the politicians that television reveres. Oh, the honorable senators, etc. No, they are the worst of us. They are scum of the earth. Finally, I'll give the last line to one of our members. Cenk's left tricep of fury, that's his funny handle. But in this case, he says, Biden's red line is made out of Palestinian blood.
He doesn't have a red line at all. He doesn't have a red line when it comes to Israel. And that's something that we have to acknowledge and accept as a reality when it comes to the Biden administration. Mr. Decent President, Mr. Vote for me because the other guy is so indecent, right? Yeah, this is what decency looks like according to Joe Biden.
Yeah, last thing on this, because you mentioned the other guy. Trump over the weekend, not to be outdone, came and said that he would not only arrest every peace protester in the country, but he would deport them if they dared to criticize Israel.
Deport them where if they're US citizens?
It doesn't matter. He's like, they dared to criticize Israel. And he's saying this to who? To donors. And he keeps saying, hey, I'm doing it for you guys. I would arrest them and get them out of the country for you guys. And he then promised to set the peace movement back 25 to 30 years. But remember, he's the anti-war candidate if you listen to MAGA. No, he's not. both Trump and Biden will do anything a donor orders them to do, because they're both pathetic.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.